So here we are for the Spanish Grand Prix. Ide, or Montagny should I say, is in third place. Yes, he is. He runs out wide. And they just collide into each other. Even though both guys ran out wide, Schumacher just thinks, you know what, I'll go into the back of my former teammate. Now Montoya, is he going to get into third place? Montoya's run hideously out wide. Right, are we going to see Coulthard make the move on Villeneuve? Coulthard he's got so much more straight line speed. That is the effective slipstream, and Coulthard is now leading the Spanish Grand Prix. And Liuzzi's had an engine failure. Scrap that. We'll go to that replay in a second. Liuzzi. Well, Montoya's got past Ralf Schumacher, never mind getting past Montagny. Massa's also got past. Martin, what are you on about? 2 seconds. There's no way did Alonso close 7 seconds in a lap. Look how much time he's closed up. He's got past Villeneuve. But still, Coulthard's going to come round the last corner to win the 2006 Spanish Grand Prix from the home favourite Fernando Alonso. So there you go, Jacques Villeneuve in third.
Here we are then in Monte Carlo for what we hope will be another action-packed Monaco Grand Prix. The Monaco Grand Prix is the most famous and glamorous race on the Formula One calendar. The small principality first hosted a Grand Prix way back in 1929 before the official World Championship began. Formula One cars have now outgrown the tight confines of the Monaco streets, but it's still an amazing sight to see the best drivers in the world weaving their way between the barriers. A good grid position here is vital, as the tight street circuit makes overtaking very difficult indeed. Conditions are just about perfect here today. Clear skies and perfect temperatures on and off the track. The forecast is also good, and we expect it to stay like this for the whole race.
Okay, so hey guys, and welcome to the grid for the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix in this reverse grid race series. And now, this is the race where I think it best shows off how fortunes can change thanks to a reverse grid. Both Ferraris, which in real life started at the back, are now starting at the front. Now, Schumacher, thanks to the reverse qualifying results, starting in first place after his controversial parking at Rascasse during qualifying incident, which I'm sure everyone knows about. It's quite an interesting moment really, where Schumacher was that desperate to get pole position, he ended up starting at the back. I believe he started from the pit lane actually.
And then Q3, that incident at Rascasse.
Well, I mean, first of all, we had a good strategy. We were good on the pace. The first try was good, not perfect. And then finally it stalled, yeah.
And then Felipe Massa in second, I believe he damaged his car from an incident in qualifying. So basically he damaged his car near the start, or at the start, and couldn't compete in qualifying anymore. So he was out of qualifying and started in 21st, but now thanks to reverse qualifying, starting in second. Then you got Ide, who, well, I say Ide. Now, if you haven't watched the Nürburgring episode, in that episode you will have seen I did a straw poll, and most people said, about 2/3 of the people said that they would want me to incorporate the real life driver changes. So I know it says Ide on the game, but we're just calling him Montagny just because people wanted the real life driver changes. I wanted the real life driver changes as well. So it says Ide, we'll be calling him Montagny because he's the person who actually took part at the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix. And then Button, amazingly one of the 2 drivers who hasn't scored points so far this series. Now Button, if you look through the series to date, he's always been in 9th or 10th. He's always finished just outside of the points. This is his best shot so far of getting points. And you wouldn't think it, because it's at Monaco where overtaking is impossible, but he's only 2 places outside of the points. I reckon Button could finally get some points. And then we got right at the back, we got Webber, who had an amazing qualifying to line up second. But Fernando Alonso, who is qualified in pole position once you took out Michael Schumacher, who was the quickest, but then his times got deleted from qualifying. Alonso has ended up then being the quickest and started from pole position. And now, this is an interesting one for Alonso, because in the past couple of races, we've seen him make up places rapidly throughout a race. Even in Malaysia as well, he's gained places rapidly, and at Monaco we know it's impossible to overtake. And when you're starting from the back, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that sublime charge through the field like he has done in the previous races. But anyway, let's just stop talking about it and let's head on to the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix.
It seems like an age for the drivers waiting for the lights to signal the start of the race. We are racing!
So we got Takuma Sato in 4th place. He's got off to a decent start. Is there going to be a crash at the start of the Grand Prix? Oh yes there is. We got Rosberg out.
Rosberg! That's the end of his race today, and he will be devastated. I think Liuzzi was the other driver involved.
Now it looks like Coulthard hasn't got any damage, but is actually... Oh no, I don't think he's got his front right tyre. Oh, hang on, what? Okay, so Alonso's in last, but has made up a few places on those retirements. Okay, that's weird. We should get a replay of that start in a second. Button, where's Button? Button's lost a place to Clean, so Clean's in 10th, Villeneuve 9th, Heidfeld 8th. And at the front, actually, there's not been that much change. Schumacher typically is pulling away from Massa because, well, we know Ferrari favour Schumacher, so that's why. We got Montagny in 3rd, Sato 4th, Speed 5th, Montero 6th, Alba 7th, Heidfeld in 8th, and we got Button down in 11th because obviously I'm looking out for him because he hasn't scored any points yet. And no, there's no major changes at the back. So let's find out what happened at the first lap. Right, so Liuzzi was actually starting a fair few places ahead of Rosberg, about 3 places ahead I believe. So I think Rosberg tries to make a lunging move into the first corner, and I clipped his tyre on... Was that on Liuzzi? I think Coulthard had a separate accident actually. Right, now let's find out what happened to Coulthard. I still don't quite understand what happened to him. So if he had nothing to do with Rosberg, he must have got involved in a separate incident. Oh, I think it was the backlog from when... From the crash ahead with Rosberg. I think Coulthard was caught up in the backlog of that. Now we're going to have just one last replay of the start. Coulthard, he loses his front right. So I think it's the cars behind him go into him. Oh, the McLaren ahead of Montoya goes straight into Coulthard, and that's what does it for him. That's quite unfortunate. So Coulthard was held up by Rosberg and Liuzzi's crash, and then just got slammed into by Montoya.
Look at Michael Schumacher. He's giving it all he's got. His previous lap time was 1:13.63. Massa can't keep the pace as he pulls away. He's lapping in the low 1:14s. The gap is now 2.3 seconds. Lap 4.
Okay, so we've finally seen an overtake. That was Fisichella we just saw get past Ralf Schumacher, and now Ralf Schumacher's about to be passed by Montoya, is he? So Montoya's now up into 13th place. And finally, we've had some action this Grand Prix. So Fisichella's now in 12th. He's now directly up behind Button, who's still up behind Clean. Villeneuve in 9th, Heidfeld the last points in 8th. And then we got lots of the small teams. Midland are doing alright in 7th and 6th. The lone remaining Toro Rosso's in 5th. And Speed actually is sort of struggling to keep up. Quite surprisingly, with both Super Guris. Sato's pulled out a gap. Ide's actually pulled out, or no, not Ide. Montagny, I mean. Montagny has actually pulled out quite a big gap on Sato.
2 seconds and 7/10. Schumacher's driving is definitely putting the pressure on. His previous lap time was 1:13.7. His lead over Massa has grown considerably. The gap has extended to 3.3 seconds.
Right now, Heidfeld is actually the only driver here who's actually looking like he might make an overtake. He's right up behind Albers, but no, he's quite far behind now. Heidfeld was getting very feisty on the back of Albers, but just isn't able to do anything. It's an absolute joke. There have been no overtakes made in the top 8 all race.
Schumacher's driving is definitely putting the pressure on lapping in the mid 113 range.
Right now, this is the exact problem there is. Look, this is Button right up behind Clean. And this isn't the first time he's been up behind Clean, or in fact, one car's been up behind another. But I bet you he won't make the overtake. In fact, now Fizzy Keller's closer to Button than Button is to Clean. And look, there's no chance of an overtake being made, is there? Not even Fizzy Keller's going to get past Button, no.
Speed is in 5th. Montero is 6th.
Whoa, Massa's out of an engine failure!
Is in 8th place.
Now there's some drama in the race. Oh my word, that now means Montagny is going to be in 2nd place. This is some drama right here. So Montagny, we're going to see him go up into 2nd place. Wow. Sato is now in 3rd. We've now got Speed in 4th. Montero in 5th. Albers 6th. Heidfeld 7th. Villeneuve is now holding the last points in 8th. So it looks like it's going to be car retirements that decide this race. Because there sure aren't any overtakes happening. Speed's actually closed up a bit to Sato and Montero's closed up a bit to Speed. But there's not a lot happening.
Now all we can ask is, has he got
The leads.
Speed made some time during the middle part of that lap. The gap is now down to 1.8 seconds. It looks like Speed is responding to the pressure applied by his opponent. He was faster through the previous sector. He's slowly closing in. The margin has shrunk by another 10. This is the final lap for race leader Michael Schumacher.
Thank you there, Martin. So now, Michael Schumacher is leading the Monaco Grand Prix, and I was actually worried that he might lap the back marker of Fernando Alonso, believe it or not. I mean, Alonso's just entering the tunnel, and Schumacher is... he's not that close, but considering it's only been a 16-lap race...
9. It's Clean! And with that incident over...
What on earth has happened there? Clean! Clean's out of an incident, I believe...
Luckily, he seems to have gone away unscathed.
Speed is on a roll now.
Alright, Martin, I don't care about Speed. What's happened to Clean? Right, now we should be coming up to roughly where the crash is. So, Button's up behind Clean, who's been stuck up behind the whole race. I think Clean actually... did Clean jump Button at the start? I think he might have done. So, is it coming up out of the tunnel? I think it is actually. So, what happens here? So, coming out of the tunnel... did Button actually hit Clean there? Well, when Clean's rear wing came off, certainly, but did Button actually hit Clean? Because the commentary made it seem like he did. We'll have to look at that again. Right, so now we're coming up to just before where the crash is. So, coming into the tunnel, does Clean's rear wing fall off, or does Button actually go into the back of him? Because we just see it just crumble off. Oh no, there was definitely a hit there. Definitely, and that's Clean's race over. That is really unlucky for him. Look, he's the despair in his face there. That's going to be unbelievable. Schumacher's coming round the last couple of corners, and clearly cheating in qualifying helps certainly in the reverse grid race series, as Schumacher is going to win the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix.
Been cut to 1.4 seconds. Michael Schumacher powers across the line to take top spot on the podium.
So cheating in qualifying certainly helps in the reverse grid race series. Montagny nowhere near Sato. Montagny could get 2nd. Sato could get 3rd. We could see a double podium for Super Aguri. Wow, Speed in 4th, Montero 5th, Albers 6th, Heidfeld 7th. Villeneuve is 8th, so Button hasn't gone into the back of Villeneuve this time, but Button hasn't scored any points so far this series. You can't blame him for getting a little bit frustrated. He shouldn't have gone back into Clean, but that's not the point. Montagny crosses the line to take 2nd here at Monaco. What a fantastic drive from Montagny, and Sato, his teammate, will come in third for a double podium for Super Aguri. Speed in fourth, Montero fifth, Albers sixth, Heidfeld seventh, and then the last points finish, or the last points place, is taken up by Villeneuve. Button ninth, Fisichella 10th, Montoya, and there you go, there are the results. Now that was quite an interesting race. It didn't seem like it during the middle when there were no overtakes happening bar a few, but that was quite an interesting race. Massa's engine failure and Button's collision at the end really did spice things up. Also, Speed seeming like he was going to make a charge on Takuma Sato. It never played out, but at least Speed was providing some excitement this race. And overall, it was quite an interesting race, and it is one of the few races that plays into the hands of the smaller teams, and of course we need those races to make the series fair for all the teams. So sure, there weren't many overtakes, but it means that the smaller teams have now been given a massive shot of points for the drivers and constructors title. Speaking of the championships, and Nick Heidfeld has been able to score 2 points this race, and so gain 2 points on his championship rival Fernando Alonso, and Alonso amazingly didn't score any points this race, which means that the battle at the top between Heidfeld and Alonso has closed up ever so slightly. And Michael Schumacher, who only had 10 points coming into this race, is now on 20 points, and is right up behind Nick Heidfeld and Fernando Alonso. So Michael Schumacher is now starting to make a charge for the title, so bring it on, Alonso v Schumacher. I'm looking forward to it. The final thing I want to note is how Montagny, who obviously didn't even do the first 4 rounds of the season, has now got 8 points. He's outscored Ralf Schumacher, Scott Speed, Clean, Ide, who he of course replaced, Mark Webber, who qualified way too good this race, and Sato, who he's ahead of on a race position count. And that just shows just how beneficial this race was to the smaller teams, and how Montagny has been able to finally grasp a situation and take it with both hands. Which does mean that Button, unfortunately, he keeps on finishing just outside of the points. We saw it again this race, finishing in 9th. Sure, a bit dirty how he did get 9th, but Button, you gotta feel sorry for him, still hasn't scored any points. Now moving on to Constructors' Championship, and this race was really interesting for the Constructors' Championship. Sauber getting 3 points thanks to Heidfeld's 7th and Villeneuve's 8th means that they are still just about leading the Constructors' Championship, but if they didn't score those points, Ferrari would have been leading the Constructors' Championship currently. In fact, if Felipe Massa was able to take 2nd place like he should have done before his engine failure, Ferrari would be leading the Constructors' Championship by quite a significant margin. Finally, the tide is turning in favour of the smaller teams. Midland have overtaken Williams and Red Bull, and Super Aguri have overtaken Honda, Toro Rosso, Toyota and Williams. I mean, that is a phenomenal day for Super Aguri. A double podium, and boy does that show on the Constructors' standings. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Sure, it wasn't the most interesting race, but there were a couple of bits of promising action, and a couple of bits of genuine action actually. But of course this race did play more to the smaller teams, so that's why it may be a bit boring. There weren't that many overtakes, but we need some races that play to the smaller teams' advantage to keep the series fair for all the teams, and this race was finally that opportunity for them. But anyway guys, the next race is at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. Now it's my home race, but with Silverstone being a former airport, there's going to be a lot of overtakes, and it's probably going to be a sheer contrast to this race. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it, because I sure am, because it's my home race, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of action at that Grand Prix. So I'll see you then.